But once it manifests, then it's more difficult to clean your vibration up about it, because now you've got the sinus draining that's hard to get your attention off of. So it's much easier to guide your vibration before it manifests, but it does not matter if it manifests. You could have every deadly disease known to man in your body right now, and we could promise you that if you could guide your thoughts toward better and better feeling things, you would move away from the resistance, which is the disallowing factor of the wellness.
So we don't have to identify any thought that triggered the illness, whatever it is.
You don't have to get back to the basis of it, but what will begin to happen as you decide to be consciously aware of the way you feel, and as it matters to you that you feel good, and you begin to contour your thoughts one at a time, what begins to happen is the not good feeling thoughts become less and less pleasant and more acknowledged, and you become less and less tolerant of them. So we don't think that any of you are negatively creating because you have unconscious thought. We think you are negatively creating because you are willing to put up with negative emotion. You're not as picky as we want you to be. We want you to care that you feel good and to guide your thoughts in order to feel good, where the tendency is to want to change the conditions so that I can feel good, and you can't do that. There are too many conditions that keep moving around on you.
So there is a cure-all, and that's just feeling good all the time.
That is the fountain of youth. It is the river of wellness. It is the stream of abundance. It is the way to all things that are important to you. It's feeling good. And so when you realize that you have control of the way you feel and you start exercising it. Now, we would encourage all of you, start with easy things. Don't take the thing that's been plaguing you most and decide that that will be the thing you clean your vibration up about. But decide that you want to feel good, and then be aware of how you are feeling. And we really like the picture, and you have spoken it even more clearly. We really like you to hold this image, because this will help you. You have, without knowing it, that's the reason you want to call it unconscious, you have been, without being aware, launching all kinds of things into your vibrational escrow. So you are on the brink of manifestation of many things wanted and maybe many things not wanted. And you can tell by the way you feel in this moment which of those you are walking toward. So every ornery moment is a moment closer to a manifestation that did not just come out of the blue. You've been working hard at it. Every emotional step along the way is a step closer to some of these manifestations. So your inner being is always calling you toward the things that it knows you want and that it knows you will like when you get there, you see. So Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss, and we think that there were no better words that were ever spoken by a human tongue. If you were following your bliss, you would be following the trail to vibrational alignment. You would be in vibrational alignment with all of the things that you have added to the clear being that you are. In other words, you would be tuned in, tapped in, turned on. You would be thriving in all ways. But we notice that sometimes you can't get a whiff of bliss, especially when your sinuses are clogged up. In other words, sometimes if you are frustrated or in despair or something is happening, you don't have vibrational access to those wonderful thoughts, and that is the thing that we think is sort of stuck in the craw of so many, because when we say you create your own reality and the way you feel is your indication of how you're doing, and you're dealing with some situation that is clearly not in alignment with what you want, it's normal that when you are looking right at something that is clearly not what you want, that you're going to have negative emotion. We do not want to give you the impression that we want you to rid yourself of negative emotion. We would not ask of that any more than we would say lose the sensitivity in your fingertips.
I understand that.
We want you to be aware of negative emotion, and we want you to bless negative emotion. We want you to appreciate negative emotion for the guidance that it gives you. And so let's get around to this making peace with where you are. So as you are living something less than what you want, and you are clear that you would like it to be different than it is, and you're mad at yourself that it isn't different than it is, that self-directed anger, does it feel good or bad?
It doesn't feel good.
It doesn't feel good. And so when you find yourself there, say to yourself, I'm going to do my best now in my awareness of this emotion to find the best feeling thought I have access to. Not the best feeling thought I've ever thought, and not the best feeling thought anybody has ever thought. I'm not trying to mimic my bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Abraham friend. I wish that person would go away, frankly.
Just to do the best
I'm
can
just
do
going
right
to
now.
do the best I can right now. And when you are in fear or even despair, and you reach into that breath of fresh air that revenge will give you, and you acknowledge that this revenge does feel better than that fear or despair that I was feeling before, the key to this deliberate reaching for a thought that you have access to is to stop and say, I have deliberately chosen this improvement, and I do feel better. And this is where the emotional journey comes in. We want you to care right along while you're suffering with your sinuses. We want you to care about what your emotional response is to it. And we want you to take your attention away from the physical discomfort if you can, and put more of your attention upon the improvement of which you have utter control. And what you'll notice is when you make yourself feel better, say to your friends, I'm really, really angry, and if you don't like it, then stay clear of me, but I feel so much better than where I was. I'm going to beat this drum for a while because I want to be sure that I'm stable here so that I can move on to the next. And when you show yourself that you can do that, then you will feel a relaxing come over you, because you will realize that you truly can go anywhere that you want.
Do we add, in addition to reaching for the better thought, does it help to sort of pull yourself into that new reality without the sinus problem by imagining or shooting a rocket of desire that I want clear and free sinuses and focus on that? Will that help pull you to it?
Well, it would. Now, if you were in frustration and you were then just wanting to fan the flames of your desire, so you imagine what it will be like, you possibly could make that jump. It depends upon how you feel. In other words, it's a good recommendation to reach as far up the emotional scale as you can, understanding that if you don't reach that far, you can just start where you are.
And not get frustrated about not getting there
But
fast.
that's precisely what we were about to say. What we've noticed with so many of you is if you try to reach further than you can and you fall in the crevasse, then you just get more irritated, and usually you don't, in that moment at least, do much good work about moving out. But eventually what happens is you watch for every opportunity. In other words, you could be bogged down in traffic and frustrated about that every day, and that could be the basis of your sinus situation. In other words,
It's funny you say that. I don't like traffic.
You could be irritated with the atmosphere. You could be irritated with the smog. In other words, those kinds of thoughts over a steady basis where you beat the drum of it so that 99% of that was in place, and then one day out of the blue, here come the sign. And then once they've come, then you don't usually do anything to clean up the vibration about it, and so then it just self-perpetuates, because now you're looking at what is, and so you're offering even more of a vibration about what is.
Well, you've helped me greatly with mine, but since I knew I was going to be coming back here with you this morning, I had some discussions with
There was danger in that, we know. You have been sent on a mission, haven't you?
Well, I started it, I think, but another question along the same lines. Things that show up on us physically, our physical bodies we create. I think I understand you in that we don't get anything that we do not create ourselves.
You don't get anything that is not in vibrational alignment with the vibration